Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to sort of show our work, our journey we've been doing, myself for 30 years and Natasha for how many years?
Not that long.
Yes. So this is my first slide. Me, myself, as a sculptor, working with glass. I have to break the mold sometimes. You know, we call it demolding. But also, I want to have the idea of the commentation of breaking the mold, what it means as well in the journey when I'm working with glass. So, as a glass artist, I would say breaking the mold means, for me, innovation, trying to sort of get experimentations, but also that vulnerability, the element of rejections, things that are going wrong and things that they break, because that's what you're working with glass quite a lot. I'm a visual artist, so originally I studied fine art, that is in Spain, in the Basque Country. The mediums that I was working was media and photography, and then later on I came to this country with not speaking English at all. And then slowly I built up, kind of my visual art work, which was photography, but then slowly I came into the glass world. That was my first piece that I made with glass. That makes me realize, still having the window shell, and still looking at the piece of glass when going through the light, and seeing how transformation does, whatever is in the morning or in the evening. Some of you might say, what a piece of rubbish. But for me, it was like incredible, yes, putting the piece of work and putting the key in, and was a transformation. What all these pieces, they join together, and what can I do with this? So it was very, very exciting. I started in Westminster Adult Education, evening course, then I did my BTEC level 3, then I did my BTEC level 4, and throughout that time, I did quite, a bit of a body of work. When I finished the studies with a colleague of me, one of my colleagues, we got together and we decided to start a business, go to a studio. That was in a month, and we went to Cockpit Art Studios. Cockpit Art Studios, they give us the possibility to start working there, and then what was happening is we have a month to have an open studios. What we're going to do here, because we had all this work, but we didn't have time to make the work. So we decided to select pieces that we did together and then put them together in a presentation to see a little bit of feedback from the people who were coming to see in that kind of show. Karen, my partner, she was more interior designer, and then we started sort of working a body of work, becoming kind of a design in the spaces and creating a body of work with it. So actually Seasons was a piece of work that I created in Westminster Adult Education. We had Conran shop, we had Sotheby's, really like the work, they want to have light in the work. So we had to sort of make something to lead the work in the interiors. Another piece of work was all these leaves that I was making. I was making these pieces of leaf where first I started fusing them, but then I wanted to get that kind of elements of the decay and the breakage of that. So I tried to sort of find the way to fuse it and slump it into creating this quality of the glass. And I have to say, we have to use frit, which is broken glass. I had to make the frit. We didn't buy the frit. We didn't have that in the suppliers. We're talking about this 24 years ago. So the kilns that we had, we didn't have this fancy machinery. Everything was like one of those old ceramic kilns, and trying to do it yourself with the basics. We start creating chandeliers out of these pieces. I have to make a 4-meter chandelier with a spider, and I have to display it myself. I really don't like heights, but I remember doing this for where it was commissioned. It doesn't go through? Is it? Oh yes. Winter collection is like the pieces that we have with the cubes, the casting cubes, we start making the lights and we start selling them. I mean, I was making cubes and cubes and cubes and cubes, but at the same time, we decided to make a piece of work that was coming from both of us, something from the company called Global Glass Art. So Frozen in Time is wall pieces that we were making, dividers or things in the wall, where actually the design was very impressive. We were having like the pieces of work that were cast, where you slot them in and you can build them up, move them wherever you want to, stay them in a position or add in as many as you want. We work with lighting engineer, where was the LEDs. 24 years ago, LEDs was something totally new. So he was give us all that kind of elements that we can color in the glass in some way. That was very interesting to get this kind of body of work that later on what happened is after 4 years and working, being in 100% design, being in Chelsea Craft Fair, being in all these galleries, we were 24 hours, 7 days a week doing all the work. Karen had to go to Sweden. She decided that that's it, no more. And then suddenly we have to sell everything. I broke the mold there again. We had to sell the king. We had a flatbed, sell it as well. And all the glass, we had to sort of split up. I have all those glasses, but actually it was not like a place for it. It's no more light, it's no more suspension. So things that were like something else. But a good thing, I became a senior lecturer in glass at Kensington and Chelsea then, which now is Morley College. And then I dedicated my next 2 years working as a lecturer, getting my qualification in university, and dedicating for the students and for the community. I found that was very important to be passing this information which I knew, and I'm still loving it. I mean, education is part of me, as well as being an artist. I was doing my etching, my printings, so it was not just working with glass. For me, that was ideas, like how can I transform those later on into, how can I put them into glass? So I started doing my lino, trying to find how I put it on glass, how the etching, the thin lines can I transfer onto glass, and it was all about experimentation, innovation. I was researching, I was finding out. I didn't know anybody was doing this then. I know that's people doing it at the moment, but and I started doing screen printing. I go on my wooden screen, stretch the screen, finding what screen I did it, and then I started using my photography and my imagery that when I was doing fine art and put it into the glass. So this is becoming lots of layers into the glass. It's not fused, but I create a kind of 3D element of depth into the work. So even though there was no sculpture, I had that element of the depth in there. So I was using acid etch on the glass as well as enamels printing. You can see a little bit of the close-up of the image of what you can get into just looking at the point of it. Anytime you move, I had mirrors, so you see the whole thing becomes shadows and moving into that. I'm sorry, you can see it there. Next was the National Glass Center. So I had the chance to go for a year sabbatical and go in and do work. So I thought that it was very good to get away from London and go to Sunderland. I would be working all just me and my work and see what I could do with, what can I get out of that. So, you know, was incredible experiences and incredible exploration while working with glass. This is something that, for example, someone putting clay and pouring glass on it. So the whole thing become bubbles. It become like a kind of being in a kind of demon world, you know? Very interesting. That was me working with pyrography. Pyrography is this one when you just get hot glass and you paint it on paper, and it's very direct. It does remind me a little bit of monoprinting in some way. That was very interesting to approach things that are burning, but at the same time you're making a mark on the paper. as well as, you know, as a mold making, you know, we know the mold making and the grinding and the polishing take a longer time. So it's a very different approach to working with glass that you need to sort of plan it. I put this slide because this is something that every morning when I was going to the National Glass Center, I was going through the river and I was seeing the skies of that area, incredible skies, so clean, and the reflections from the river. I was getting all these elements of things moving. So I, you know, at the beginning, 9 to 12, maybe I was doing printings and painting and bringing these things into the center, in the glass center. And then I came across with a copy wheel machinery, which is like amazing. And then I was just making those marks into the glass, very direct as well. But I think as well, I'm not calling myself an engraver, but I think it's like, it was very interesting to sort of see what you can create with these marks into the work and how effects it gets when you work with hot glass as well, getting these optical elements. It looks like the river in the morning for me when I was doing this. Etching, printing, the one on the bottom, and how can I produce this into my work? I start printing in 3D, and then trying to sort of get James Maestri, which he's an incredible blower. He was a technician at the National Glass Center there, and trying to get him was very difficult. So I have to sort of put it into, ask him, like, I think I had him 3 times. Everybody was like asking him to do work for him. I was not allowed to do blowing because I'm not a blower. And I do understand as a health and safety. But I could direct him and let him know what I wanted to do. So I started introducing the printing element into the work and sculptural work, and was very interested to work with him at that time, because the first thing he asked me, can I have a drawing what you want to make? And I said, no, this is not drawing. We're going to sort of go for the flow. We need to see how the glass moves, you know, how the gravity, how do you put it again in the glory hole, and how does it move again? So he, even though I thought I'm just putting away from what actually the glass makers there, he is very, you know, great artist and glass maker. I think that he knew what he was doing, even though I was directing him. So that was interesting approach to using the 3D into architectural glass. But I have to say, this piece actually was selected at the Glass Biennale. That's one of the selections I had. And I love the piece because it had that kind of remnants of the 60s where they used to do blowing, and it was very free. They didn't have to make like kind of a specific shape and things like that. So I really, really like that. Again, still exploring my ideas. I'm getting a pin, you know, a whole camera, and I'm going and I take my little photograph. I don't know if anybody knows about pinhole camera, but you make your own camera by pin it with a little hole, and then I don't know what I was going to expect. So that was by the river, taking photographs on these elements of trees and things that they were growing around. And then my monoprinting as well. I used to go for an hour doing my monoprinting, coming back and show it to the students, like, how do you make all that so quick? But it's like bringing this kind of exciting ideas that it was coming into the medium. I have to transfer into glass. So I got my little branch and I'm going to make my mold. I'm going to do 2-part molds, and then how can I flow my waxes into that mold was not easy, but I had to do it. So I did a few of them, and that was the one I'm flowing. And look, I was making lots of waxes. And when the process of making this is something came up, which is like, I love the flashes. I love the irregularity. I love the idea of things becoming something else. They looks like they're not branches anymore. It's something else. And that imperfection, this is an element that I start liking it, and it starts getting into my work in my research. So I started doing some research regarding trees, and then one of the things is like I came across is what happened in England with the ash tree, where some kind of trees. They were moved to Europe, to this country, and they start getting diseases, the trees, and the trees start decaying and breaking and dying, and that kind of concept is something that it was very transferable to what I was making in some way. So testing, making this different type of mold making, using waxes, or start doing burnouts. I had the possibility to use this. They gave me this kind of, it was a kiln totally destroyed, or I could do all the burnouts and nobody was using that kiln. And then moving all these to the other side of the glass center to another kiln where the mold could break. Because I don't know if you know about mold making, but when you fire it, things they become very brittle. So that was like a kind of a challenge. Half of the time it's like half of the way and the whole thing collapsed. So I need to sort of understand better how can I make molds that are becoming harder and more reinforce them somehow. Perhaps the structure, like architecture, when I'm making them, so things that don't follow. Remember all these things, they have very little branches and they go all over the place. So that is, I need to sort of reinforce that somehow. And that was an element that it came across when I'm making. Working with different type of glass, trying to see how the glass flows into these very thin molds and trying to get the best effect. That is something that I was looking into that to get. So some of the glasses, I was doing a lot of tests, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, and then I came across with GAFA, which has a lot of lead content, not very environmental, by the way, but that actually went very down to the detail of getting the buds, the leaking of the glass, and the bark of the branch. So this is it. I start working now. I start making my prints, and I start doing blowing with getting the shape that I want, like a nest. And also I start adding the elements of my sculpture in it. This is me. Can Maria, can you do it bigger? We like it bigger. And it's like, yes, I'm going to make a bark. And it's like, that's me making a 2-part mold with a monster. And then it's like, give me a break. And then I start with a wax like bark. And then it's like, thinking I'm making, it's like, this is not really what it is. I need to make it thin. I need to make it fragile. The element of fragility in nature. And I don't want to make a monster. I want to make a monster large, yes, but not very thin. So I'm going to challenge myself to go very much larger in the scale of a branch, but I'm going to make the thinnest branch that I can do. And I'm going to use the elements of glass, that is, that transparency, something that disappear from nature, and something that we need to sort of keep it there. So this piece as well was in the Glass Biennale. That was in 2020. And I made a lot of attempts, and I managed to do 2 of them. Both of them, they went to galleries and they've been sold, and really want to come back to this one day, and then maybe perfectionist a little bit of mold making. I'm just thinking more. Again, lots of black and white, let's put colors. Remember the glass, we can add the colors, and I'm going to go crazy here. So if I want to work with Romanescos, because the Romanescos is incredible vegetable, that when you look at it, it had that kind of structure that nature gives, that is such a beauty, that is something that I want to add it on. But I'm going to put crazy colors in it, why not? And then I wanted that to make these Romanescos was very easy if you compare it with a branch. It was an open cast, and it was like, bloop, easy, cold work. The polishing was there, but it was like easy to achieve the detail to the end. This piece was selected at the Royal Academy in a summer show 2 years ago with another piece that I selected. And I think that is one of the plus things that I found A lot of work comes into glass exhibitions, but I wanted to come out of the glass world. I'm in a sculpture, and I want to do a sculpture somewhere else where not glass is their unique thing. So yes, applying to the Royal Academy, which I know that a lot of people, they say rejections, and I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to apply with 2 pieces, and 2 pieces they were selected. It's like, bring it on. That means like I have something in me that it does show that people like it, as a sculpture. This is my next. I'm so pleased to get this award. Was going to Northern Creative Glass, which doesn't exist anymore. Everybody who's done these, courses there was in international place where people were coming and work with glass, usually master courses. And unfortunately, this is gone now because a lot of funding was coming from Europe. So this is what's happening when, I'm not going to go to politics, but this is what's happening in the real world. It was, but I was so lucky to do this course, which was Materiality Making a Meaning. And I did this course with Annie Cottrell, and I had Andrea Spencer. So this is Andrea trying to sort of put flame work into my mold that I cast, and then blowing in. So I wanted to see what kind of elements of 3D sculpture can be worked with flame work. That course was incredible. We had 7 days full on from 9 to 12 in the night, working. It was incredible. But the first day was drawing. And that is one of the things that I really like from Annie Cottrell. I feel like a kind of connection in the way that she works as well. So you can see that this is a piece of work that I want to, a piece of potatoes that I want to sort of show you in a way. I work a lot with the elements of vegetables, but when I came back to from Sunderland, that's what I found it actually in my drawer in my kitchen. I had in a plastic bag of Tesco's, and the whole thing is like, and when I looked at it, I said, this is it. This is going to be my final piece for my work in my master's. I thought that was amazing. How the actually elements of the potatoes start crumble, and it becomes another kind of object, and how these shoots they were coming out, and all these elements. So I started researching a lot about potatoes, and I'm not going to go ahead with that. But then it's like, how can I use my casting and with my flame work, and playing with my flame work, which I didn't have too much knowledge. So in the Glass Center, they gave me a month. You have this flame work it, do it yourself, get on with it, chop. I didn't have anybody to show me how to do these things. Well, I had Andrea to show me a little bit. But then it's like, the way that I was working was not working in little. I was like these shoots of glass, trying to sort of bend them and hit them. So I was standing and doing like a very weird things. All the I would say, hot glass people, they were looking at me, she's mental. But I wanted to sort of achieve something very different. And this is what I started thinking, how I'm going to display my final piece. Am I going to encase them? No, actually, I don't want to encase them. This is no nature. I need to sort of take this away from this encase element. And then this is what I present at the end. So I call it eternal mutation, which is I create the actually metal base, and I was like a kind of clinical element of kind of table where all these potatoes, they were growing and in it and shooting in it and getting these elements of something that is something else. A bit of repulsion, I have to say. But some people, they say to me, it looks like a big spider growing to each other. It was not like looking what the potatoes were, but it was something else, the elements of what nature can give you sometimes. Yes, it does have these elements of what we think, it does have the beauty as well. Finished the Glass Center, I had this opportunity, was granted to do an artist residency with a school that was from the Worshipful Company of Glass Sellers of London. So it was 8 people. We've been taken to different schools, and we have to go to go work with the theme of the Great Fire in school. And that was such a refreshing to work with children, very different than working with adults. They were very well behaved. I couldn't believe it. Very well behaved. But we had a day where we were rubbing, making drawings, working with clay, and then I asked them to sort of create a kind of a group work, and we used plasticine. What I asked them to bring elements or materials related with that period, with the fire of London happened, materials like textiles, keys, metal, clay, and then the idea was like to create kind of a collage together, and then I was taking these elements and then produce the piece that was commissioned. Memory collection is the piece that I create at the end with the work of the children, with the imprints that they had. So I create these kind of houses that related with that period, and inside, it was a cast, inside was all this fire and smoke that was inside of the glass in it. So I as well got a burnt piece of wood, and then I tried to sort of get like all nails to hold the glass. A kind of big piece, but cast, so the whole thing was standing, and then it was given as a commission to the school. Enlace is a piece of work that actually you can see here, yes. Enlace is, again, a cast, so it's actually an exhibition, and it means kind of the joints that we have as a human being with nature. So I tried to sort of create this halo around the bark, which is a nut, and make it like a beauty out of this. This is a piece of work that is a bit crazy, in a way, because it's a jewelry piece of work. And I try to sort of use another type of materials, the net that you're using for vegetables, and how we can put them all together. And then I got a lot of ladies to put in my piece of work in the chest to see if the thing was poking or not in the chest. So, and actually the piece was selected in MAVA, which is a Museum of Art in Madrid, where they do this glass biennale in glass and jewelry, and they put this piece of work, which I was stunned, you know. I'm doing jewelry suddenly. No, I'm not a jeweler, by the way, but it's just combining these materials. Meanwhile, a lot of sample testing. I want to do this screen print, but now I want to use powders. The powders, you can buy them now. In colors, but I need to test colors and see how you can create these kind of elements of 3D textures on the surface. And shear forces is a piece of work that it was four pieces of work that I created much larger, which they were sold, and it was commissioned as well. And I made more because the good thing of screen printing is you can repeat it. However, each of them, they're becoming something different. And I try to create these elements of transparency in the glass that you don't see what is in the nature. And also these little holes is what man-made made to sort of pin wood to get things together. So it's Eternal Night. This is kind of interesting piece of work. It was selected at as well. It was in the Biennale and selected at Royal Academy as well. But I have to say, when I was making this piece of work, I was very angry what was going on around the world. What was happening with nature. That was the time when in Australia was all these burning trees, and then as well, it was a lot of negativity around me, and the making, I was very interesting. I was getting a piece of, clay, tearing it, splashing all these waxes, and trying to create a composition prior to making the molds. So the actually action of it was very kind of alive for me. I feel very connected with the piece, even though it's very dark piece. And the polishing was another issue because I had a lot of difficulties to do this. Decay. Decay is a subject that I love, and I can see that why all these relations that I have from my first pieces of using this kind of elements of decay with a leaf. Now I come in and I start developing a body of work which is on the process, making this piece of work. What I'm going to make with that, I don't know yet. Shall I make jewelry? That's great. And then I had actually, you know, the possibility to get an award in Amanda Moriarty, which I'm going to start using all these, you know, Romanescos into blowing. And I'm going to say, can I do this? Can I? Can I? Come on, be nice. I don't know. No. Yeah. So that is a residency that I already done 2 days. So I went with all these lots of pieces and worked with blowers. And I was very lucky to be introduced with Lucy, very young artist that she worked with blowing. We made 60 samples on that 2 days, not stopping. And then from these samples, I'm addressing which ones I'm going to do for the next 3 days, and I need to do a body of work with them and combining these things. I need to go back to the drawing stage before I decided what I'm going to make and looking at all these samples into it. So this is me heating up a little bit the end of the piece, so later on I can put my piece, open the can and poke it in there. So that is kind of a processes that are very different than when you're working with mold making or casting. And to be continued. This is a never-ending process of working as an artist and using glass as a medium. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you see?
I
the
can.
table?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see.
Where to see now?
Okay. Let me just see. I just want to sit here and listen to you talk more. I did actually say to Maria, she's had 30 years of experience, and really she should be doing the whole hour. So, but
I'm going to say Natasha used to be a student at Morley College, and then in such a short time, I asked her to come into this presentation because she brings the glass with another techniques, which is the glass that I don't do. So it will be like a bigger scope or looking at glass with different medium, and she's incredible architectural artist. So
thank you.
Let us know what you've been doing.
Okay, so so Maria was 30 years. Back in 2018, I hadn't even touched glass. So I did a course at the Prince's Foundational School of Traditional Arts, which is now the King's Foundational School of Traditional Arts. And I'd worked previously in fine arts and in filmmaking and projection and creating installations, but then as soon as I started working with glass, it was just such a revelation because, you know, covering a piece of glass in Bister Brown and then scratching away and seeing the light coming through, I suddenly realized I'm actually painting with light. And so that's what, you know, absolutely kind of enamored me was just the manipulation of light, and that's what I'm really fascinated by. So these are some of my paintings here, and the middle one was exhibited at the British Society of Master Glass Painters for the centenary exhibition. And let me see if I go through so you can see. So my first commission, so after the Prince's School, I then said I really want to carry on with this. So I did another course there in 2019, and then I heard about the course at Morley. And so I came for an interview, didn't I, with you?
All of the students are coming for an interview.
and I did my BTEC and my UAL with Maria. So Maria was my tutor. And I carried on, even though she's fantastic you can see all the work that she does. I just stayed with the architectural glass.
Good. Good for her.
But I learned so much about glass as a medium through her. I mean, she's such an incredible teacher. You know, she knows the medium and the kiln settings and everything so well. And while I was actually still studying there, I got my first commission. And this was at Southside House, which is a historical building, which has now been sold, unfortunately. But this is a a panel that I created using flash glass. I'm very interested in using mouth-blown glass, flash, and then etching away at it. So you can see some of the, so there's one of St. Peter and then one of St. Paul there. And that was for a very tiny, I think it was the smallest chapel in London. I don't know if the image isn't very good, is it? But
it's beautiful.
and then I got another commission, and this was in the Netherlands, actually. So it was Leonard Stoke, I think. Let me just get this correct. Yes. So it was based on some snowflakes that fell in 1740. So these are the snowflakes that were painted in 1740. And the owners of the house where he also lived wanted me to create these hand-etched replicas, which I did using acid etching and the Dremel drill. So that was a really interesting commission there. And then, yeah, so after that, while I was still doing my UAL and BTEC with Maria, I heard about the Worshipful Company of Glaziers and Painters of Glass. And maybe just to give you a little bit of background about myself as well, I studied world religions at SOAS, and which is a School of Oriental and African Studies. So I'm really interested in traditional cultures and keeping traditional crafts alive. So it was really interesting hearing about the Worshipful Company of Glaziers and keeping these old techniques alive. And then I heard about the Stevens Architectural Glass Commission competition, and I think it was a couple of weeks before the competition, and I said to Maria, "Oh look, I've seen this competition." Maria said
What
to me,
did I say?
"It's too late. Don't
Too
do
late.
it." And
No,
so that
no
actually
time for
was,
it.
yeah. I'm half Greek, and she's.
And she
So
did
that,
it.
and my anarchist side came out and
Good
said,
for her.
"I'm going to do it." So I applied, and I got first prize for design.
Beautiful, yeah.
And this was for a piece for the Worshipful Company. No, it was for the Haberdashers Girls' School. I didn't get the commission, but I got first prize for design for it. And then the following year I applied again, and this was for the Wilfred Owen commission for a church in Oxfordshire, in Dunstan Green, and I won the design element and also won the commission too. So this is the piece that I created, and it's all based on geometry, and this is the scale of it as well. And I wanted to use traditional techniques, so none of this, all of this is just using the color of the glass itself. So it's only using red glass and blue glass. And let's see, you can see here, so it's 2 layers of glass. And so it's red glass, blue glass, and it's acid etched. So I would paint over it with bitumens and needles, and then acid etch it, and then put them together. And then to get the orange color, I added silver stain. So it's using all the, yeah. So this was for the World War I poet, Wilfred Owen. And it was a wonderful experience because I got to actually go to Oars where he died, and I met so many different people involved in the project and got to know his work really well. So you can see here, I'm actually painting with bitumens, which is a technique also that I kind of, when I was working in the studio, I didn't exactly know what I was doing. It was very nerve-wracking. And then so I started painting, so that's using white spirit. And then I also used needles to get the fine detail. And you can see here what it's like with the blue glass and then adding some silver stain, how it completely creates. You can get such a gamut of different colors. And then I was lucky enough to receive the Lever Award. And this was an incredible experience. So this was through the Worshipful Company of Glaziers, and it's the Lever Livery Award. And so it was a year of traveling around the world, really working with different master glass makers. So some of the people are here, I've listed them. So there's Thomas Denny, Jonathan Cook, Jonathan Soper, Swansea College of Arts, Derrick Studio in Germany, Lambert's in Germany, Glasmalerei Peters in Germany, Maria Paula Farinha in Argentina, the Rio Heritage Department in Brazil, Aura Visions in Cambridge, the Fustat Centre of Traditional Arts in Egypt, Henry Bird, who was an architect, who was teaching me architectural drawing, Andrew Taylor, Michael Vincent, Lichblick in Germany. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation, I hope it is. And then in Murano, Venice as well, and Luigi Luisa Vitrais in Brazil, Patrick Costello, Pippa Stacey, and Maria Julieta as well, and Holt Glass. So these are some of the. It was fascinating, seeing how different studios across the world work differently. Every studio has a different way of doing things, and every studio says this is the way to do it. And actually, it was great to see that there are many different ways of doing things, and just the different approaches to glass, and it really kind of pushes the medium, what you can achieve as well. And I was very interested. So this is me in Egypt learning, because I was very interested in how light passes through gypsum, and and all the traditional techniques. And it's so important because stained glass is on the red list of endangered crafts. So it's really important that these skills are passed on and that future generations have the ability to know how to do these things. And so this is at Thomas Denny's studio, and this is with the wonderful Patrick Costello, who's passed away now, but he was great. He did all of Thomas Denny's leading, and this is at Aura Vision. So the thing that I really enjoy is using traditional techniques, but then also bringing a modern spin to them, and also bringing in different voices from across the world too. This is in Argentina. That was incredible there with Maria Paula. So if I continue, so these are some of the projects that I was, Maria Paula in Argentina introduced me to, and she got me to take this whole piece apart and then put it all together again. And so that kept me occupied quite a while. And this is in Egypt. That was really fascinating as well, working with gypsum and glass. And then these are some experiments that I did at Swansea, who have fantastic glass facilities at Swansea, really amazing glass facilities. So this is using acid etch and layering glass. And then this was a project that I did for the BSMGP, and that was last year. It was the William Morris exhibition, and I was really fascinated by Islamic art and also the William Morris design. So I started, this design begins from the Great Mosque in Isfahan, and then I just started sketching it and drawing it, and then slowly bringing it into the William Morris design. And you can actually see it's very similar. There's a great similarity. So this is the William Morris, and this is the Great Mosque of Isfahan. So there's quite a beautiful transition between the two, and you can see how much he was influenced by Islamic art. And this is a piece that's on tour at the moment, and it's on exhibition through the BSMGP, which is the Tree of Life. And you can see me painting. So what I like to do is I like to work with flash glass, etch it, layer it, paint it, and then work through it that way. So there's lots of different processes there, and scratch away. So yeah, it's basically working with light, really. Yeah. Let me just check. Oh, okay, 7 minutes left. So this is the Tree of Life, and then you can see how deep I go in as well. I love to get, with sandblasting and etching, I love to go very, very deep, so it gets a kind of a real, almost sculptural feel to it. Yeah, and you can see these are the, so this is the one that's being exhibited at the moment, and that's been on a tour. So another part of this is just to show you some of my failures, which this is the thing. I think you have to apply, and you have to get used to the process of actually. You often put a lot of work into things, and they don't necessarily come off as commissions, but it's all a learning process. So this was for the RAF design. I was shortlisted. But just to show you some of the design process, so to get to this, I used sacred geometry, and then I kind of superimposed and like layered, and I have Leonardo da Vinci images in there, and so you can see all these layers. So it came to this. So I quite enjoy the process of, even though I find design is the most difficult aspect of it. Actually, once I have it down, then it's easier to actually do the thing. So this was another design, again, another submission that didn't get chosen. Let's see, which I actually really liked this one. And I was disappointed, again, based on Leonardo da Vinci, who is, my hero.
Your hero?
I love his work, yeah. And his optics, which I will come to as well, his exploration of optics. So this was another design. Again, this was for another Stevens architectural glass commission that I applied for. This was for the Mercer's company. And then I'm also doing, this is at St. Mark's in Dalston, and the Reverend Josh has kindly allowed me to use his belfry as a studio.
Lovely.
So it's a very cute little studio space with the bell ringers things coming down, and it's very atmospheric. So I have the keys, and I can go in there at night and work away on my own. And so I do help there by doing restoration work, and and so this was one of the restoration pieces that I did, and so that's great. And also kind of getting people another project. So these are projects that I'm working on at the moment. So there's St. Mark's, and then this is an really interesting project at the Rio Cathedral. And I'm in discussions with Helder. This is Helder Viana, and then Christian Bayerl from Lambert's, Fernando Cortes from Arcové, Teresa Paloma from the Institute of Glass and Ceramics in Madrid, and Luisa Vitrais in Rio, and also Lawrence Heimer. And what Helder and I are trying to do is trying to get a discussion of how some of this glass can be restored. And so we're interviewing the original, the artist's son, who was also involved in this project, and looking at how Dalle de Ver can be saved. And Lamberts are going to be creating the glass, making the glass as well. So seeing how much of it can be saved and how much of it can be, Another project I'm working on at the moment, which is finishing at the moment, is called While We Wait, which is a project through the RCA, the Royal College of Arts, and it's about finding, because a lot of people within the NHS, I'm really interested. I was also a psychotherapist for 20 years, so I'm really interested in the effect of our environment and how it makes us feel, and light in particular has such a huge impact. And so I'm going and speaking to patients and doctors and staff within the NHS setting of seeing what is it that makes you feel good. So this was one of the projects that we did about the ideal waiting areas within the NHS. A bit of teaching through the Royal College of Arts again, St. Paul's. And this is my studio at the Royal College of Arts. So I'm currently there at the moment doing my master's. And that's thanks to also to the help of Quest and the Kirby Lang Foundation, who've generously helped to pay the fees. And these are the studio facilities. And how are we doing for time? Are we okay? 2 minutes, good. And this is Liam from the Royal College.
Cool.
This is a project that I'm working on at the moment. So Liam, with the help of Anthony Scala, are creating these beautiful roundels for me, which I'm going to be etching into and creating light effects.
Fantastic.
This was an exhibition that I did at Swedenborg House using alchemical images. So I researched a lot into alchemy when I was at SOAS, and so using these images almost as books. And that was exhibited in October last year. And then this is part of the Edo Fusikon, which was a show that was shown at Swedenborg House. And we did 5 performances, and it's like a theatrical, a very old theatrical piece. I think it was done in the 1700s. Gillian will kill me now. I don't know if she's watching this, but yeah, so by Luther Borg. And these are some of the effects that we got. So participants were invited into a dark room, and then we created these beautiful light effects in a theatrical setting. I think I may have, oh yeah, so that's me there. So we would slide in the images and create the light effects. And so I'm really interested in light. And this was a project at Cumbria Crystal, which I was at actually last week, using engraving wheels and using lead. They're the last manufacturers of leaded glass in the UK, and there's very few, I think 5 engravers left. So just to finalize, these are some of the experiments that I'm doing at the moment. You're having a sneak peek of these, and I'm so excited.
Okay.
These are some of the experiments that I'm doing using light and glass and projection. And optics. So I'm really interested in Leonardo's exploration of light, and then seeing how light can be manipulated with glass, and then seeing through projection and through installation. I think that's my time. So this was, yes, a good place to end. So this is a light. So I'm looking at light reflected, transmitted through glass, but simultaneously also light that is reflected off glass as well, and the effects that these create. So that's that's anything. So yeah, that's
Thank
me.
you, Natasha.
Okay.
That's very good.
Quite good with timing, I have to say.
So
I have some questions.
Do you want to ask me a question?
I do. Okay, so we've got 3 questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So, what excites and motivates you working in the medium of glass, Maria?
Well, first of all, glass as a material, as a raw material, is beautiful. And just looking at it, I think it's magical. Then, when you start sort of develop and exploring, then it's something else come out, and then something else come out, and something else. So it's like a never ending of surprises and failures as well. So this is the thing that really makes me, I enjoy when working with glass, definitely.
Yeah.
So what about yourself, Natasha?
Yeah, I think for me, glass is the way that it manipulates light, and it's such a strange medium because it feels like it could be liquid, and yet sometimes it is and it's not, and it changes and it transmutes, and I just love the combination of light and glass together is very exciting for me. Yeah.
So what roles has innovation and experimentation played in your work?
Well, roles. Yeah, I think this kind of comes to what we were talking about before, about kind of leaning into the unknowns. A lot of this has been about doing things and getting things wrong, and actually learning so much from when we do make mistakes. And I'm always really keen to push the boundaries as well, to use the traditional crafts, but then to push the boundaries as much as I can and see how far this can be pushed until it cracks or breaks, or isn't.
For me, it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I've been a year exploring glass by making cast pieces, and I'm not using molds anymore. I'm not breaking the mold anymore in that sort of context, but I'm using something else. I'm using the freezer. I'm using another materials to combine the glass, because it's all about food what I'm making, and I'm drying in a slow cooker, and then I'm doing carving in. So for me, it's that kind of discovery of researching and finding out, reading, trying, adding something else, looking at what someone in Facebook said. So all those things, believe it or not, that is like never, always going on every day in my days, from the morning. Right?
And I think that's another thing is that we never stop, do we? It's one of those things, you don't get paid much, and when you do get paid a little bit, you're like, whoa! But you're kind of working 7 days a week, or thinking 7 days a week, and so it's one of those. Yeah.
As an artist,
I
think as an artist, it doesn't matter what medium is like that.
Yeah.
I have to say, unless you are the well-known artist that everybody wants your work. So this is why I'm keeping my little piece, the first piece. It will be in the future maybe a collector piece, millions. My daughter will be able to buy her house. You never know. So that's what I mean. It's like it's something that artists, we have to be working 24 hours, 7 days a week, all the time in the studio Sunday. And what are you doing now? Well, I'm going to my studio.
This is the other thing.
What are you doing now? I'm going to my studio. In the weekend, yes, it's that time that I can do my studio. But what do you do? I'm an artist. Oh, that's nice. No, actually, that's work.
It's quite painful. It's a painful.
Yeah, it's very patronizing when you say that's nice. Actually, that is work. And that is a serious work. You have to believe that you're doing something when you're working as an artist. If you don't do that, if you're not determined, then you're not going ahead to do more of your work or your discoveries in any medium.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the things, is the general feeling that art isn't work, and actually it's so much work, and it is really exposing yourself as well. I think that's the other thing. You have to also be prepared to just kind of almost like show,
like today.
Yes.
Breaking the mold. We're breaking the mold today. We were like in a shell.
Yeah. So so I think that this was the final question, is what advice would you have to someone at the early stages of their career?
So I would say, follow your heart. Do not listen to your tutor. If you want to go ahead and do it, do it. But as I said, you have to be determined. You need to sort of get on with it, because if not, if you also get any kind of rejections, take it as a positive thing. I do have a file of a lot of rejections. Just another one, that's okay. But why do you think this is not happening and not going through? So reflect on that, analyze on that, and then maybe the next time, try again, because that's the only way to sort of continue and finding ways to do this, what you love to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the thing is to follow the thing that excites you. So the thing that makes you go, oh, like that, just go for that. Even if it doesn't make sense, just go for it, and that will kind of lead you to these places that, and don't be afraid of going into the unknown. I really encourage that, because it's that leaning into the unknown and being slightly scared and feeling really, I don't know what's happening, and being out of your depth. That's where magical things start to happen as well. So I really encourage that. And like Maria said, for all the acceptances and the funding and the support that I got a lot more rejections. Everything, like the quest thing, everything. I didn't get anything the first time. Everything, So it's creating almost this like, just be prepared, and don't take it, let it go in, and don't let it stop you. I would say just keep trying.
Another thing I have to say, it's never too late.
Exactly. I didn't
start. I'm very old. No, actually, it's never too late.
It's never too late.
Give it a go. Yeah. Because it will be my competence. I know that you were going to sort of try to sort of with me, but give it a go, because if it's something that you come out, anything like a little exhibition or a fair, or like getting the quest, you just give it a go and try and believe in yourself. That's one of the things I have to say.
And
That's important.
Chagall didn't start stained glass till his 70s. And he carried on till his 90s. And his best work, I think, is in stained glass. It's just stunning. So, yeah, it's really... And I didn't even touch glass until my late 40s. So, you know, it's...
An artist that never retired.
But, yeah. Exactly.
That's another thing. Yeah. Remember that. Yeah. So I think one of the things is like when you're working with casting, mold making, you always think, oh, shall I make it big? And then you're thinking, well, now is it time that maybe I should consider other venues? And that's something, because polishing a big piece of glass, that is muscle making, unless you have, as I said, minions to do it for you. And that is not the case that I'm looking into at the moment.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, you never know.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Maria and Natasha, thank you so much for what has been an absolute treat. We've got 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 at maximum, for any questions. So does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
I've got a banal one, I'm afraid. The tree one, the big one.
Yeah, the branch.
The branch. How big was it? There was no... Right, okay.
But then when you cast it, you have to cast it this way.
Yeah.
So what you have is you put your glass, and it's very thin in my mold, so I have to sort of put it in a big pot, so everything holds together. And then the glass that I was using is lead, so it has a lot of weight. So you need to make sure that nothing falls onto the elements of the keys and things like that. But it was a lot of testing. And very fragile. When that actually, yes, holding it, it looks like a feather. So.
That was the thing I was going to ask about, the potatoes.
Oh, the potatoes.
How do you transport?
I had to go from Sunderland to London. I hired a big van, you know, transporting everything. What I had to do is take it off in the kiln. So I did bond both of them with UV light, and then if you put it in the kiln at 400 degrees, the whole thing, nothing moves, everything stays in the shape, but actually the glue comes off. Right. So then you have all these elements that you need to transport it very carefully.
Like IKEA. A bit like IKEA.
Yes. Yeah. My God, I have a lot of big boxes in the studio where all with those long branches. I mean, the branches, they were very long, and some of them were very thin. So you transport it to where is the National Glass Center in the exhibition. We had like a table with wheels, and the thinner areas, they were like moving like that. I was like, it's going to break. So I had to sort of put it padded with kind of very soft paper to make sure that everything stays in position. I can travel these things from the ground floor to the second floor. So it's everything like, you know, a kind of finding ways, but it's kind of hard, you know, element in there that things can break. And it does break sometimes. It's like, okay, that's what happened. Any more questions?
Any further questions?
Natasha, such a change in career from what you were doing before. Was it one thing that inspired you to go into glass, or was it something that had been building for a while? Or
well, I've worked with fine arts and with installations before, but then it was just the actual medium of glass, and then suddenly realizing the light coming through, and that actually, so that was the thing. It was the actual materiality of it. So it was just the actual holding it, and then suddenly seeing what could be done with this, and to be honest, was never really that enamored by stained glass itself, but what I always loved were the pools of colour that it created. And that was when I would go into cathedrals, that's what would capture me. So, yeah.
My question's picking up on the pools of colour.
Yes,
the stone or whatever underneath it. That I heard, and it's kind of distant memory, that at some point there was a secret recipe for a blue.
You're right.
And then it's got lost. So do you know any?
Do I know the secret recipe?
What is it? What is the secret recipe? I didn't hear very well.
I'm sworn to secrecy, I'm afraid.
Glass
for blue,
Right.
cobalt. And,
Right.
copper.
Or what's got lost, basically?
You'll have to be initiated into. I don't, I'm afraid.
Is
No.
it what they make the glass blue?
Yes.
It's
yeah.
oxides. So you need to use maybe cobalt or copper, and that one, when they make the manufacture, that's where they're mixing it together. And that's
But I think she's talking about the medieval ones, aren't
Right.
you? Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that they put copper as well.
And I think this is the thing
Romans.
about that I'm quite passionate about is that actually stained glass has always been veiled in a lot of secrecy as well. And even in Murano, you know, if people would leave the island, they would be chased down and brought back. And I've noticed that here in England as well, how secretive a lot of studios are about the techniques and about what they do. But what that does, I can understand that, but also there's something about needing to share these recipes, these techniques, because otherwise, when somebody dies, that they are lost. And so, you know,
We have time for one last question. Any takers?
It's not it's sort of a question. Can I come and speak to you at the end about Philippe de Louvreburg and the Ace of Fusco?
Oh yes, of course you can. Yes, yes, yes,
The first person mentioned that, so
yes.
slightly.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's put our hands together again for Natasha and Maria.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for making this. Thank you guys for coming to listen to us. Thank you, Natasha.
Coming.